Thank you. Sego sa wagwego. The wisdom you get snack when dan Akwesasne net gisnaine det kedela. One of those gas and Yosalaga were guilt to gi gagolasla nes equiptic ladidant dunkwa. Hello to all of you. I'm Vaughn Sunday from the Akwesasne Mohawk Nation initially. I worked there for many years in economic development and with chief and council directly. I went back to school after I was done in my home community and got a master's degree in public administration. But what I would say to you about that is I didn't really learn to be prepared to be an administrator by getting a master's degree. My years at Akwesasne was really the education that is helping me today. So the formal education, not so much, but the work within my own community. It's a large First Nation, 15,000 on reserve, over 20,000 on our list. And that's what prepared me to work here in British Columbia. I've been here for 3 years now. So what I'd like to do is go through a PowerPoint of some of the projects and issues we've had to overcome and to get to where we are today. Then we have a little come home video at the end, and then we can have a roundtable and talk around the circle. So when I arrived here, this community had quite a few challenges. They were passing the budget in the end of October of 2018. And normally you should pass the budget in late February or early March. They were trying, back one, please. They were trying to pass their audit in December, and that's highly unusual. We normally have the audit completed at the end of July. All spending was frozen because they didn't have any information on their financial position. And they had gone through 10 executive directors in 2 years here at Adams Lake, and I was number 11. So as a matter of fact, when I was getting my business cards, I think I only asked for 50 initially because that's probably 2 months worth. So I didn't ask for any more than that. So anyway, they were in need of a CFO for the finance department. They didn't have one. They needed some human resource assistance because of what was happening in the organization. They had many legal issues confronting them, and they had spent more than $500,000 in legal charges. They had the need for about 60 homes. They had manganese and arsenic in the water, and they were 3 years behind in their ISC reporting, and we were under the threat of third-party management. Next, please. So the third-party management, we had to deal with an audit sent from the east. They had auditors from, I think, the Ottawa area, and they were trying to find out if we were improperly spending the money. There was no political stability or staff stability. We had 5 different chiefs in a short period of time, many changes in senior management with all the changes in leadership. And I mentioned 10 executive directors in 2 years. So they also, we had effluents from the campsites getting into the lake. So we actually made some CBC and CTV news because of that. And we had some infrastructure repairs. Next, please. This is a picture of our Walking Our Spirits home. And we did that event. We were planning it for months, but this event actually came about 2 weeks after the discovery of 215. So there was lots of people that wanted to join us to bring our children home, bring the spirits of the passed away children that were from Adams Lake. We were going to walk 60 kilometers back to the community. So we had a lot of other First Nations join us, and we probably had about an average of 400 participating in that June event. Next, please. So you need teamwork in order to succeed, and this team was kind of disjointed. So we needed to encourage long-term strategic planning. We needed council to make major decisions. We needed the finance admin law and the finance audit committee to be active. They were not previously. We had to promote teamwork all the way around. And then throughout the organization, we supported education of all the employees in order to get some kind of a certification for their walls and their career path. We also invited the Minister of Indian Affairs to come to our school opening. Next, please. So we made some immediate actions in order to provide assistance. So I informed council that the normal budget cycle includes the operational plans given to all directors and managers in November, presentations to the FAC and council in February, a public meeting, BCR in March for the adoption of the budget, and then in July, you'd have your audit completion. And in July, you'd also get your annual report. That's the normal budget cycle. And then we hired a CFO, John Adabanjo, is a certified professional accountant, and he was hired in January of 2019. We purchased 10 acres of land for housing because we didn't have any housing land, and we completed a strategic plan for housing in December. We initiated an investment fund. They had their monies in a savings account, and with the bank charges, we were breaking even or even losing a bit of money. So we completed the first annual report in 5 years as of July of 2019. We completed the audit, the 18 audit in July of 19, and it was 20,000 cheaper than the previous one because we had sample files, we had contracts, we had our invoices all in order. And then we created a 10-year capital plan. In Ontario, we usually do a 20-year capital plan, and it's not required in this province, but Adams Lake has a capital plan. Next, please. This is a picture of Cabinet Minister, ISC Minister Seamus O'Regan, who came to our school opening in 2019. He was the first ever Cabinet Minister to come to Adams Lake. Traditional. This is a picture of traditional parenting and grandmothers. I noticed a lot of grandmothers taking care of kids. So I informed the health director I wanted to create a grant program for those grandmothers raising kids and recognition for them, because I'm not sure where the parents were, but that's a really great prevention, a great way to prevent children in care is getting family to take care of these kids. And in this case, it's grandmothers supporting the grandchildren. So we gave grant monies, and this is a nice picture of everybody smiling, but some of them, there was tears everywhere. And I asked what happened, and they said the grandmothers had never been recognized, and it became emotional. Nobody ever said thank you for raising these grandkids. So that's the chief on the left, and a council member on the left, the grandmother, and a health worker on the right. So that's what that picture is. Next, please. So some of the selected accomplishments from the first year and beyond our investment fund. I'm not at liberty to tell you how much we've made in our investment fund, but let's just say it's more than what's on the figure, 1.5 million. We completed our annual reports. We do one every year and provide it to ISC. We got approval of 16 housing units this fiscal year, and it's our first banned home since 2008. We completed a water line of 6 kilometers at a cost of 2.5 million. We manage the campsites now ourselves, and we upgraded the infrastructure over there, so we don't have to worry about pollution getting into the lake. We implemented the FAL, and we're updating policies across the board, and the Finance Audit Committee meets regularly, and we have now accepted the 10-year funding arrangement from ISC. I am also the director of the EOC, our Emergency Operations Center, and we provide assistance to the community during the pandemic, during the forest fires, issues like that. So we have an EOC for the community. Next, please. So this is our housing journey. And that's a picture of a groundbreaking of our subdivision. So the chief is holding the shovel, the councilors are there, an elder, the housing manager, some of our construction people. Our CFO is second from the end on the right, and our engineer is furthest on the right. And that's our groundbreaking ceremony. But we purchased 10 acres and we got the land transferred. Then we did a strategic plan for housing, and that strategic plan was completed in the fall of 2019. And it looked at the population stats, growth, and what types of homes do we need. We also were not eligible for CMHC when I arrived. So we needed to get the audit section of the CMHC audit section done before July 31st, submit that to CMHC and ISC. We had to identify replacement reserve for CMHC homes. We had to update the housing policy and work on our loan loss rate in order to be eligible for CMHC. Then our housing manager has applied to ISC and CMHC, and we got some housing renovations the first year. We got it for several years, housing renovations. Now, more recently, we've used our monies to build homes and connect to the infrastructure. Next, please. So this is a picture of our first band house, and we actually had a ribbon cutting ceremony 2 weeks ago, and that's the first band house since 2008. It's a duplex for 2 families, and it's got a beautiful view of the lake. I think we're going to have to pick the families out of the hat because of the view on the left is so beautiful. We'll get accused of favoritism if we just award a family that. I think we're going to have the chief pick out of a hat. So next, please. This is a aerial view of our subdivision. You got some houses under construction. You got some carpenter trainees working on the projects. The contractors working on this must hire First Nation local people. And then we have 2 native contractors working on this project. So this gives you a view of some of the units under construction. We have 6 under construction in the subdivision, another one in a separate area, and 2 houses out in the Salmon Arm area. And the foundations on the top left, there's 2 of them being built. That we have a 4-plex under construction and a 3-plex. So we actually have roughly around 14 or 16 units, 14 in this area, 2 more in the Salmon Arm area. Next, please. So the water line construction, the first grant was approved for $1.3 million to start the water line. The bids came in at $800,000. So we completed the first phase in the fall of 19, and technically you're supposed to send the money back, the $500,000. We said, no, we're going to design it immediately, tender out the second phase. So we actually, out of the 6 kilometers, did 3 kilometers by 220, and we had to beat the winter. So anyway, we tendered it out, did a design phase. We let Indian Affairs know, and the third bar is kind of incorrect because we hooked up 13 homes in the first phase. The second phase, there was another couple of homes. And then when we completed the final phase, we have a total of 26 homes in total. And we had to have meetings in Vancouver in order to keep the money. But they were quite happy. Their only provision was that we complete phase 2 by March 31st in the same fiscal year. We managed to do that. And then we lobbied for the final 3 kilometers. We applied for it all at once. And right now, we did complete the 6 kilometers, and we're doing a feasibility study. It's called a FAR, for the water treatment plant and water reservoir that needs to hook up to the new water line. So in any case, it was big news for the community. And what I would say is, when we asked people if they would sign up to get onto the water line, at first in 2019, they said, oh, we've heard that song before. We've been waiting for a water line for 40 years. So they didn't really believe we were going to succeed. Then when they saw workers working and big vehicles hooking up, we got all 24 in one weekend to sign up saying, yes, if you get the water line in this area, we'll hook up. And in this area, we had manganese and arsenic in the water system. It was a do not consume water area. So next, please. This is our water ceremony, and the person in the black jacket closest to you is an elder. His name is Slaha Lawrence Michelle, and he was one of the people that had bad water basically his whole life. And we had a ceremony right by the lake to welcome our new water. Next, please. This is a few quotes from community members, and to me, the strongest quote was the first one by an 11-year-old. But Elder Lawrence also had a quote for us, and a former chief, Elder Ronnie Jules, at the bottom. And the third one is also an elder. So we have two elders, three elders actually, that are quoted in this page, and an 11-year-old. So we actually submitted a little video we had made to Indian Affairs, and we got immediate response. They said it's very powerful. Thank you very much. And well, we're going to go to Vancouver soon and thank them for their contributions in helping us make this a reality. Next, please. So we have these campsites, and initially they were run privately, and I don't know why, but this community allowed the private managers to keep the profits. So they were given a lease for just the lease rate for the campsites. When I arrived, I said, that's not really logical, and we're going to have to use all revenues. We're going to have a capital loan, and we need a means to pay for it. So we won't be renewing these leases as such. So we started operating the campsites ourselves, and we upgraded the infrastructure. So what I would say after all this is we've created a lot of employment, and we definitely have a means to pay back our capital loan that we'll be using for the capital plan. Next, please. So the EOC, we had the state of emergency, just like everybody else across the province and the country for that matter. We had an emergency operations person that trained us. We were about to do EOC training when the pandemic hit, so we didn't have time to do any training. We had to open the EOC. So anyway, we've done some food security. We've given checks to our members. We've provided food to those in isolation. We've provided support to the health department, and we've developed guidelines for back to work. And we actually received our training after 6 months after the EOC was up and running. We did a new emergency plan also. Next, please. So financial management. Their FAO was passed in 2019, but it didn't get implemented until basically I arrived, and our CFO, John, came here in January. We started implementing the FAO, and we initiated the Finance Audit Committee and get them to do regular meetings for recommendations to any changes to the budget with council. So the departmental managers, directors have a signing authority to 25,000. John, our CFO, has 50,000. I have 100,000. Anything larger requires a BCR and the chief signature. So we caught up on our ISC reporting. We went through the third-party audit. So we did not get third-party management because they saw what we were doing was a good path. And we got through that, and things are far different today. The ISC looks at us very differently. So we do have the budget circle, as I mentioned before. Our three audits, our last three audits, when I first started, it was 14 million in asset value in the community. And then in 2019, we went to 24 million, 2020, pardon me. And that 24 million was because we did the water line, we completed the school construction, and we purchased land. The most recent audit has our asset value at 36 million. And I would say that by the next audit, when we complete an $8 million health facility and complete the homes, we're going to be pretty close to 48 or 50 million would be my guess with everything we're working on. We did accept the 10-year financial arrangement with ISC. When I'm not sure and I want council to vote on something, I'll bring, when I'm not sure council will vote, I like to bring other First Nations that already have in place what I'd like to do. So once we receive presentations from other councils, then our council is more willing to pass something. So I mentioned we created an investment portfolio. Initially, it was 55% stocks and company investments and 45% bonds. So anyway, now we've gone a little bit more aggressive, 65-35, but our fund is doing quite well. It's appreciated very well. And we have a $10 million capital loan, which we really haven't started using because everything that we've done so far has been, we've applied for grants and received them. But that'll change by the spring and late and summer coming up in 2022, because we have about 50% of the $8 million health facility covered by grants. The rest we have to put in. So that's when the capital loan from RBC will kick in. Next, please. What's on and what's in the future? We completed a salary grid review for our staff, and all the increases have been implemented. We did a strategic plan for economic development. We're under construction for a health facility of $8.5 million. We're updating our comprehensive community plan. And that's typically where you get, what does the community want? The capital plan is what does the council and staff want? But CCP is what does the community want to see? And we're going to build a kikali. I come from an area in Ontario that we have 13 ceremonies like clockwork, the 13 moons. And I came here to work and I noticed that they didn't have regularly scheduled ceremonies. I think the construction of a large pit house will kickstart some of the ceremonies. I'd also like to have a gathering of Secwepnik, the 17 First Nations, and find out what ceremonies does everyone have, and can we do a calendar? So I mentioned we're doing a feasibility study for the water treatment plant, and we would probably purchase an additional 10 acres for the second subdivision. And we are now going electronic in our timesheets and in our payroll and vacation leave, those kind of things. So we'll go paperless by March. Next, please. This is the health facility in October under construction. We now have foundations and forms up for the building to go onto. Next, please. So this is a picture of our Walking Our Spirits, where we had between 400 and 500 walking over the 3 days. Next, please. We have a come home video that was done by our youth. Next, please. So this medicine wheel, I wanted to put it up there because most Native people have a medicine wheel and they have spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental. So on the spiritual side, we did walk the kids back, the deceased children that didn't make it home, and we did ceremonies and asked them to come home. The kikali is we have design and money set aside to build it. We have Lahal tournaments and workshops. On the physical side, we have gym. We open the gym for youth. We have diabetes awareness workshops, traditional foods. We have exercise groups at our gym at lunchtime in our workout facility. On the emotional, recently, we got the idea from the Upper Nicola First Nation. My wife Colette's First Nation, but they called their children home. All the kids in care, 60 Scoop, people that grew up outside of the reserve, we asked them to come home and we gave them drums. We invited them to meet their family and come to their community if they didn't grow up here. So other things like the hunting and fishing camps and traditional crafts. Then on the mental side, ceremonies for healing, sweat lodge, come home video that you're going to see soon, and hunting and fishing. We've had a comedy night. We did it by Zoom, and speakers night, speakers day for youth, and we brought in some youth role models that have done well and overcome challenges. So that was fairly recent too. So after we did the Walking Our Spirits Home, there was more awareness of people that have had to deal with trauma. So anyway, these are just some of the things that we're involved in. Next, please. So I'm Wolfclan from Akwesasne, and I like this slide because the power of the wolf is in the pack. It's the same in a band office. The power of the band is in the pack. So between council staff and community, you need cooperation from all. Powerful video because it was made by the youth, and what it was done is like we have depression and trauma and youth suicide, so that's why we had a youth gathering, and we did this. Our youth workers did this video. So anyway, that's the presentation.